Hello, and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers. Hello, empaths. We hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. We're going to slip into your Monday morning with some talk about anxiety. How's that for a happy Monday, Denise?
We're off and running, yes.
A bunch of stuff comes up on my news feeds from time to time, and I was reading all these articles about high functioning anxiety and how busyness is kind of a trauma response. And it just made me think, I wonder if a lot of people are dealing with this undercurrent of anxiety right now, and they're not even aware of it because they're covering it up with, well, I've got to do this, and I've got to be here, and I've got to finish this, and I got to respond to this email. And yet what's really happening is this little river of anxiety running beneath our day.
I think that is so important to give voice to right now with everything that's going on in the world. But also, if you're, as you're fond of saying, if you're in a season of your life where it is very busy, you have small children, or you're trying to navigate being a single parent, or you're taking care of elderly parents, and you have all this stuff going on, and hearing us say, oh, well, busyness can be anxiety. I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I agree. I read an article by Amy Rollo. It's called Busyness is a Form of Escapism. And I never thought of it that way. One of the things when my kids were smaller and all at home in the summers and they go, I'm bored, Mom. They still throw this in my face, but I would always say, boredom is a luxury. Don't you agree though? Like, I would love to be bored. I would love to be bored.
Well, and I think that we get into a structure, and this is all, again, comes back to semantics. We get into the structure of the day and the ritual and the routine of the day, which can easily become a rut. And then when we step out of it and we're not quite as busy or we're not quite as structured, there can be that feeling of, oh, what the hell am I supposed to do with myself now? So
Right.
I do think that it can be an escapism, especially if the world is heavy for you right now. It's like, okay, if I keep busy, I won't have to feel, or I won't have to think about it, or I'll be able to deflect things just a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in that article, she says that people will use the excuse of being busy as a trauma response or as a way of escaping from facing some real issues going on inside of you or outside of you, like you were saying, when the world feels very, very heavy. But the difficult part of this trauma response is that other people don't check in on you to see if you're okay when they notice how busy you are. Because what we do in this society, especially the culture we live in today, you get applauded and praised for doing so much. So no one's going to be like, hey, Denise, you're really rocking and rolling. Are you okay?
I am always in this defensive mode about being too busy. Maybe I need to look in a mirror with that. Uh, is the um it's being productive. It's feeling like what you're doing is that really matters, or you're striving to take your business to the next level, or to, take care of things. So I think it's a double-edged sword sometimes.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. She mentioned another article that I clicked on, and it was this woman writing about how she had just given birth. And about an hour afterwards, she checked her phone, and one of her clients asked if she could jump on a Zoom call. And she did from the
Mhm.
hospital bed.
Wow.
And she said that was her first aha moment that she might have high functioning anxiety and busyness as a trauma response. I was like, dang girl, like did not do that. No, I'm not that bad.
But don't you find also that, I mean, that's gold star stuff right there. That anxiety can mask in so many different ways for those of us that are highly empathic and sensitive, that we may just think, oh, I'm wired this way, but it can be more a form of anxiety that we've never given voice to it being that.
Yes, and something I've struggled with is this anxiety or is this just everything is on you right now? You know,
Exactly.
like there are
Yes.
times in your life where everything falls on you. I mean, gosh, the years where I was taking care of my parents and single parenting my kids and trying to work. What was I called it? What is that? The sandwich generation?
Hmm.
Where you're just squished. Well, is that busyness a trauma response or just a response to life throwing a ton of crap at you?
Right. When you have to go into mode and just say, well, I need to just buck up and get this done because it's not an
Right.
option not to. When
Right.
you can't drop the ball.
But then does that become a habit?
I think it does for some of us.
Yeah, I do too. So in this article, Rollo says that high functioning achievers typically had childhoods where they felt a need to chase love through achievement, and they tend to have difficulty knowing their own worth. And she said they work from a core belief that says, in order to be loved, I need to produce.
Okay. And that is, you and I have talked about this a lot of that we were always successful with academics, with school, with being smart, so we achieved, we did well. And I think that I've never had any issues about being smart enough. And that sounds egoic, and I don't mean it that way, but I have enough other hangups in other directions that I'll be okay with being intelligent. And but I do think that that was a sense of worth for me was that I could be successful in an academic setting.
Yeah,
And it was all on me and how hard I worked. And if I didn't work hard, so yeah, that's a big thing. But to produce and get the A and I think for those of us that may have grown up in an environment that was more working class, there was that need to strive and produce and work hard just as a survival mechanism. So you're getting a double whammy there.
exactly. And it can be really hard to let that go
Right.
because, like we were saying, it is applauded. You got praise from your parents, but also your teachers, your peers. That's a lot of accolades, and that's important. So that's where it gets tricky. She says that when we focus on being busy and achieving, it's a temporary way to numb any inner pain or anxiety. So the busier you are, the less time you have to think, process, and feel.
Oh,
So,
and which makes sense, which makes a lot of sense. And how different is that than numbing yourself out with another addictive behavior?
yeah,
It, because I personally, I do think that busyness becomes very addictive, and you get to the end of the day, wow, look at everything I got done today. But when it all stops, when that wave hits the beach, and you just say, oh, I don't know what to do with myself, that's an overwhelming feeling.
I know. And it's hard to look at that as an addiction. When we were doing our inner child show and we were looking at Homecoming, the book by Dr. John Bradshaw, and he kept talking about like cognitive thinking as being addictive, not feeling from your heart.
Yes.
I don't know. I struggle with that concept sometimes because I think about, like when my dad was dealing with his alcohol addiction and had to go into detox and a rehab, like that was a real physical thing that you could see. Whereas these other types of addictions, I don't know, do we call them lowercase a addictions? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Is it a behavioral response to a stimulus, or are we just trying to find a way to get through? Either
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Well, she says that if you are pushing down anxiety by focusing on busyness, there are some signs. You might be experiencing headaches, nightmares, memory loss, difficulty concentrating, confusion, not feeling grounded, accelerated heart rate, or mood swings.
So many of those can be mirrored in other situations for those of us that are sensitive, for
Yeah.
those that are empathic. And I think the headaches I've shared this before that I suffered from migraines for many, many, many years. Even from when I was a small child, I had migraines. And when I made some differences in my lifestyle and circumstances, lo and behold, I didn't have migraines anymore. So was it a anxiety response? Probably. Was it a conditioned response? Probably. And it doesn't it seem like a lot of, I'm going to jump the fence for a minute. Doesn't it seem like a lot of people right now are having nightmares and heavy dreams?
Yes. I got to tell you that last full moon, The
Mm,
emails I've gotten from listeners, the conversations I've had with friends, that was an intense full moon.
yes, very much so.
Yeah, there's some heavy, heavy stuff going on right now in the world. And I think when you're empathic, I think we are subconsciously, intuitively picking up on that, and that can be really, really tricky. Now,
Right.
she said that some people use busyness as a way to avoid or detach from people in their lives.
Guilty.
I know. I was just, oh, you're so vulnerable. I was like, should I admit that? But I think I do that too. And I don't like that. Like a friend will say, like, let's get together. And I'm like, and I really do want to, though, Denise, I do. But then I have like 50 other things. And I know if I sit across a lovely restaurant table with her and you know me, like when I'm with you, I'm 100% focused on you. And so I don't want to be like, oh, did I call the painter back? Did I pay that bill? Did I answer that client back? I don't want to do that. I want to be able to focus on the person I'm with. So
Right.
sometimes I'll just say, I am so chaotic right now. Can we try next week? And then it's a terrible cycle because then I feel guilty about that.
Okay. And for those of us who might tend to be a little more on the introverted side, I think this post-COVID, and this sounds like such an excuse, and I don't mean it that way, this post-COVID trying to reacclimate into being social, into doing things, and people that you may have lost contact with or circumstances you're not comfortable going into socially, all of a sudden it's like, how can I not have to do this?
Right. And so do you force yourself to do it or do you just accept, I'm not going to do that?
Okay, to go a little step further, is busyness to avoid and detach from people also so you don't have to set the boundaries and say, I really don't want to do this with you.
Oh,
Oh, it could go hand in hand.
it definitely, definitely could. I think at the end of the day, it's worth it to, do what we need to do to keep those connections in our lives. But we also have to be very gentle and patient and forgiving on ourselves. That's why, like you were saying, how I always call life seasons. I do talk about seasons of our life. I also talk about semesters of our life. My relationship with time's different, but I do think that there are times in our life when we are busier, when we are kind of pulling away. And that might be your response to things too. Like I know for me, if I'm upset about something in my life, I don't call 50 friends. I need to take several days, maybe a week or more, where I just tuck in. I call it my turtle time. And that's how I process things. It's how I've always processed things because growing up, I needed to process things on my own. And that's what I'm comfortable with. And I tend to lead myself in the right direction. So I tend to listen to me first, and then I'll come back out and I'll talk to a trusted friend or two about it. So is that high functioning anxiety or is that just what has worked for me?
Right. And did the high functioning anxiety lead to figuring out this is what I need to do to take care of myself?
Right. Right. Wait, are we saying that we have high functioning anxiety? Do you think we do?
I kind of hit I'm not saying I'm the poster child, but when I'm reading the descriptions, I'm thinking, this between this and all the shows we've been doing on trauma, it's kind of a wake-up call.
Well, Amy Rollo says existential anxiety tells us that if I achieve, I add value. Therefore, I am valuable. And
Oh,
I looked at that and I thought, well, yeah, like, what are you going to do? Sit in your house all day and watch, talk shows or Jerry Springer or TikToks and think you're adding value to the world? So maybe I'm a poster child too, but I kind of believe what I'm saying. Like I think I truly believe being in this earth, in this world is such a gift. And I think it's
100%.
it's important for us to work to add our form of light and healing into the corner of the world that we exist in. So I don't know, does that make me high functioning anxious?
No, but I think too, the whole sensitivity to other people's energy, are we picking up on other people's anxiety sometimes and calling it our own? that whole
Oh,
sucking it up like a sponge thing.
yeah, yeah, that can definitely be a part of it too. Now, something else I think you need to look at though is, do you get more busy at certain times of your life? Because I think that can give you some clues. Like, for example, I have a friend who hates the holidays. I don't understand that, but I'm sure she had some issues with family growing up around the holidays, I'm assuming. But she gets really, really busy around the holidays, and she chose a job that is holiday focused. So that makes sense, right? But I wonder if it's a little bit of a trauma response to some childhood stuff she dealt with as a kid around the holidays. Or maybe there's a difficult anniversary you have, like a big event that happened in your life that's not a happy anniversary. Do you get super busy around that time?
Well, as not being a huge fan of the holidays, I can relate to that. Um, but I do think that that numbing out to get through can definitely show up as keeping yourself extra busy so that there's something to be saying, oh, I just want to wear myself out. I want to just get to the point where I'm tired enough to rest, which I think isn't that part of all of this? If you're in that mode of always go, 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 how do you even figure out how do I prioritize the time to rest and recharge my batteries?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think what you have to do, okay, at least for me, because I am guilty of a lot of this too, and I really do enjoy being busy and productive.
Me too.
And so one thing I've had to do is rest even when I'm not comfortable resting. I know that
Yes.
sounds weird.
No, no, that makes perfect sense because we have to relearn behaviors on how to relax, how to take care of ourselves, how to actually rest. And for you, an incredible afternoon is to curl up with a book and quiet and a cup of tea and just enjoy that time to be.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or just sitting at the dining room table with my kids, coloring and getting the paints out. I love stuff like that. So making that time, whatever it is, where it's creative stuff, or if it's hanging out with friends and getting brunch, or if it's, running yourself a warm hot bath at the end of a long week, whatever it is, to prioritize that rest, even if it feels uncomfortable to do so. I think it's important too to check in with yourself in the morning and the evening. Like, don't just wake up and hit your alarm clock and get going. Run, 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 run. Try to check in with yourself. And Denise, you're so good at that. You journal every morning.
Because I think I talked myself off the ledge. I mean, I really oh, a good example of that is a couple days ago, there was a situation that really I needed to process, and it took me a while, but I did write myself through it. So whatever your form is of that, for me, it's writing out my thoughts and getting clarity. For someone else, it might be getting on a treadmill or dancing or making a stew. I mean, it doesn't really matter what it is, but just finding something that resonates with you to help you process and get through that kind of stuff so you can get clarity is, I think it's so, so paramount for all of us.
For me, it's just walking my dog and listening to the birds, just taking that moment. She's a little dog, so we don't go on these big long walks, and she's old now. So it's just a little short walk in the morning, but it helps to center myself when I can do that.
So you're right, is checking in with yourself at the start of the day and at the end of the day. Just to be your, it sounds so damn hokey, but to really start to realize you're your best friend. Like if you
Yeah.
can't be present with you and give yourself that time and space, then how the hell are you going to be present for anyone else?
Beautifully said. And also, it's important to be patient with yourself because, just as you were mentioning before, Denise, these are learned behaviors. And so unlearning them takes time. So I think it's going to be crucial that we all learn to be patient with ourselves and become a champion for yourself. Really and truly try to be your own best cheerleader and really work on eradicating that inner critic in your head. We all have one. Well, maybe not if you're a narcissist, but anyone listening to this show, I think, has an inner critic. but become a champion for yourself. One of the things that helped me a lot is I started at, because I do check in with myself at night, usually when I'm saying my prayers. And sometimes when I do that and I'm just saying my prayers, what will creep in are, oh, you didn't get to do this, you didn't check off that on your to-do list. You don't forget, you got to call that person tomorrow. And I always will say, Samantha, did you do your best today?
Oh,
Really, that one question has helped me because even if it's not the best, for whatever happened that day, it was my best. And
mm-hmm.
that helps me to be patient with myself.
And that's huge because I do think sometimes we'll be patient with everyone else and we're so hard on ourselves or the bar is so high that we might not treat ourselves with as much kindness as we would for the people around us.
Exactly. Lean on friends is another suggestion that I think is really, really helpful, especially for people who present as very independent and not needing other people. I do think for those of us who identify that way, we need to tell we need to tell our friends like, hey, I'm having a really busy, crazy time right now, but I just need to talk about it. Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to meet at the park? But I think when you are independent and you are high achieving, nobody looks at you and thinks, wow, that person's really going through it and needs some help. Let them know.
Those who may lean towards being highly independent and self-sufficient, just saying, I know some people that fall into that camp. And when someone won't accept help. So if and I have a hard time accepting help. I'm not, hiding that. People that know me will know that about me in a heartbeat. But I think that that's another part of this is finding the people that you can be vulnerable with enough to say, I just can't do it right now, or I need help, or how am I going to get through this? Even just to have a sounding board. You don't want someone to come in and rescue you. You just want someone to hear and acknowledge where you are in your life.
Yeah, that's hard for me too. And that's always been a point of pride for me though. Isn't that weird?
I don't think it's weird at all. I think there is a pride with it. There's a strength with it.
Yeah.
There's a feeling of knowing that, I'll figure this out no matter what happens. Being strong is a good thing.
It is a good thing, but I think we also need to realize that being strong sometimes means
Being
asking for
vulnerable.
help. Being,
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I had a situation like that with my boyfriend a couple of weeks ago. All the plugs on one wall of my kitchen just stopped working. And I was like, really? And it was a Sunday and I was trying to bake and do some meal prepping for the week and I had everything out and my little KitchenAid mixer wouldn't go off and I was like, damn it. And I was trying to find the switch. Denise, what's it called? GFI?
Okay.
I don't know. There's some switch and I couldn't find it. And so I just moved
Like in the breaker?
um maybe it's this little
Okay.
like red button on one
Oh,
outlet
yeah,
and
yeah.
I
Yep.
couldn't find it and I was like, oh, forget it. So I just moved my mixer and all my electric stuff, my can opener, all that over to the other wall of my kitchen. And then he called to, see how I was doing, what was going on. And he was like, I can come over and fix that in like 5 seconds. And I was like, no, no, I got it. No, no, I got it. And I realized like how many times in my life have I said that? No, no, I got it. So even the
Okay.
smallest things asking for help, I'm like, nope, I got this. And then finally I was like, okay, yeah, come over and fix it.
Well, and that whole thing of we love to help people, but we're taking it away from someone else if we don't let them help us. But I think another caveat to that is if you've never or rarely had anyone step in to help and then they're offering, that makes it really difficult because you're like, well, I don't know how to experience that. I don't know what it feels like to have someone genuinely want to help out of kindness.
Right, right. And yet when we do, it's a good thing. Ben Franklin taught us that in that book. Remember that book? Oh, I actually did not like this book and everyone else does. How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm-hmm. That's an old
Dale,
one.
it's an old
Yeah.
one,
Dale
but he has a
Carnegie.
whole he has a whole chapter in there on how doing favors for friends is fine, but what actually solidifies a friendship is when you ask for favors. Do you remember that? And I was like, ugh, really? So the other thing that we read in our research on this topic is to seek talk therapy, whatever that looks like to you. So there's many, many different types of talk therapy, but just being able to voice your anxiousness, your busyness, your productivity can be really, really helpful. Of course, setting boundaries. Gosh, Denise, we should have named this show Boundaries or something instead of Enlightened Empaths because we always talk about that. Find a healthy, safe way to feel your feelings. I think that's a really important one. And it's going to be your unique way. So you might feel your feelings through journaling or through doing something creative or through walking or through prayer, whatever it is that feels safe to you to feel your feelings. But
Right.
you got to let those noisy attention seeking feelings get the time that they need.
And not dismiss them as somehow being wrong or too much or why do I feel this way? If they're yours, then they're yours and they're there for a reason. And I think sometimes we try to minimize or negate or make less of what we're feeling because it's uncomfortable, or we don't want to be judged, or we don't want to be seen as weak or needy. But if
Yeah,
that's what you're feeling, then they're yours.
exactly. And then finally, there are some really good guided meditations you can do for anxiety. Do you mind if I just run through a couple of these?
Oh, I'd love it.
Okay, one is called the Autogenic Stress Release Guided Meditation. And I've done a version of this, but not the actual one was developed in the 1920s by Dr. Schultz, a German psychiatrist. And it uses suggestion and guided words to help relax your mind and body. So you focus on observing your breath, guiding your breath cycles each time to be deeper and deeper and more relaxed. And you start with your arms and you say 3 times, my right arm is heavy and warm. And then you move to your left arm. My left arm is heavy and warm. And then your right leg and your left leg. You go through your whole body this way. My organs are warm and relaxed. You move to your back, your neck muscles, your jaw muscles, your forehead is quiet and cool. My eyelids are relaxed and heavy. Now, I've done one like this, Denise, where you squeeze and tighten every muscle and then relax and release. Have
Mm-hmm.
you done that one?
I have, yes.
That one's really helpful. But this one where I'm just repeating, my left leg is heavy and warm. First of all, I would be like kicking the covers off if I said that. But no, I'm just joking. It really does work. And you can actually YouTube guided meditations of the if you just put in the search engine autogenic stress release.
And that's
There's
often used, that technique is often used in any kind of light hypnosis or trance or self-hypnotic kind of processes through guided meditation, is that concentration on each body part and feeling a heaviness, releasing the tension. So that's a really, really good technique.
fantastic. All right, the next one is called the radiant light. And it's a guided meditation you do for relaxation, but also for intuitive development. It focuses on visualizing and breathing light energy into your body. So you visualize light at the top of your head and you see yourself breathing this into your body with each intake of breath. So you want to visualize this light coming into your body as you simultaneously make each inhale of breath slower and deeper. So on each inhale, you visualize the light coming into your head, your neck, and your shoulders. And with each exhale, you visualize tension and stress and negativity leaving your body. This is one I do all the time, and it really does help me a lot. I'll just picture like a kind of like a puffy white cloud coming into the top of my head. And it's, I call it like my magic eraser, and it just absorbs and erases any negativity or stress in my body. And I pull it all the way through every part of my body until it goes out the soles of my feet into Mother Earth to be cleansed.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then, of course, there's a grounded energy meditation you can do that's really good. This is where you visualize light coming into the top of your head, while also visualizing soothing, nurturing, grounding energy of Mother Earth coming into your body from the soles of your feet. So you've got the light coming into your crown chakra, and then you've got this really comforting brown energy from the earth coming into the soles of your feet. And you want to visualize these two energies meeting in your torso and forming a figure eight of swirling energy as it both grounds and enlightens you.
And we've said this many, many times, the more grounded you can get, the higher you can go. So if you're bringing in that higher frequency energy down through that light, through the crown of your head, keeping yourself grounded and blending those two together, it makes perfect sense that that would dissipate any anxiety or tension from your physical body.
Yeah, it really does. You can also create a sacred space. It can be a garden, a crystal cave, a cozy room, seen by the ocean. And if you need to ground your energy, you can visualize yourself descending a staircase to this sacred space. And if you need to lift up your energy, you can visualize yourself climbing a staircase or walking up a mountain to get to this sacred space. This is one I do a lot. I will often, if I need to ground my energy, I'll picture myself walking in a forest until I find a huge, huge, massive tree. And you know those trees that have almost like those doorways in the way the roots have grown into the trunk?
Yes.
And I'll picture myself going into that doorway and going down a spiral case into the earth. That's very, very grounding for me. And when I need to lift my energy, I always visualize myself walking up a mountain until I find my crystal cave.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And that is, I think sometimes people get hung up on, oh, I don't have a meditation room or I don't have a special spot that I can go to. I'm living in a situation where I don't have access to, a sanctuary in nature or whatever. But you made an excellent point, Samantha, in that you can do this in your mind. You can get to that same place without needing to be in a physical location or having a specific room in your home that is your place that you go to.
Yes. And I would like to remind people when I started meditating, I had three tiny kids and an entire zoo of pets in my home. And my sacred space was in my closet in my bedroom. I just put a little cushion in front of, I had a filing cabinet underneath all of our sweaters for all of our, important papers. And I put all my little saints and angels on top of the filing cabinet and my meditation cushion in front of that. And that's where I meditated.
And it worked.
It worked.
Obviously, it worked.
So I think you could do it in your mind, or you can carve out your own sacred space in your home wherever you can. Now,
Right.
this last one, my yoga teacher does, and I really, really like it. I think it works beautifully. You hold your thumb to your forefinger. Well, so, like the traditional, if you're going to sit and om,
Mm-hmm.
picture that position. So you hold your thumb to your forefinger and you visualize something that's on some type of stress that's on your mind right now. I've got to do this. I got to call this person. I haven't organized that. And you just flick it off with your thumb. And then you move your
Okay.
thumb to your middle finger and you think of another stress that's on your mind or a person that's bugging you and you just flick it off. And then you go to your ring finger and so on.
That's a great technique.
Yeah, I love it because it's like a physical thing and it makes you think about things that are stressing you out. You know how sometimes you don't want to think about stuff that's stressing you out. You're like, well, wait, I'm sitting here to meditate and feel good. Well, you can't really get into that meditative state until you first let those noisy stress things that are floating around in your head and your aura, you got to let them be heard. And so this is a really good physical, tangible way of doing that.
Yes. I think anything that you can do that is going to help release that is so, so huge. I Years ago, someone had said when you get loop tapes in your mind is to put your finger, and this is really going back in the day because you don't eject tapes anymore, but they said just kind of tap your forehead like you're ejecting a tape, like you're ejecting that cartridge, that memory. And I think when you're talking about flicking away the stress or letting go of that, that's a huge part of getting I think recognizing the anxiety for what it is, but then having a technique that you can as a go-to that's quick and fast is so, so important.
Yeah, I do too. So what have we learned today?
That we're a hot mess? No, 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 that wasn't it. Maybe it's as with everything, we all have times in our life where anxiety is stronger or less, but for those of us that it's a constant thing. So one of the things I've noticed is the heart racing stuff. But I think if you're having physical reactions to certain situations or certain people, or if you're suddenly something that's never caused anxiety for you before is starting to driving in traffic or having to go to a family dinner or a job interview, whatever it might be, pay attention to your physical body because it's going to give you some cues and some clues on where it needs to be released. So don't you find that since you've been doing yoga more consistently and working out that you're not holding the anxiety and tension in your body as much?
Yeah, I do, but this doing this show and just things you and I talk about all the time has been really instructive because I do have friends who deal with anxiety, and I never would have described myself as an anxious person because I see what they go through with they always call it intrusive thoughts. They'll say like
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to work and this thought keeps popping into my head, and I don't deal with that. So I not like I'm cool, calm, and collected, but I just wouldn't have described you or me as anxious. Would I describe both of us as overachieving busyness addicts? Yeah, I probably would.
And you would be very correct with that statement.
So it's been really, really helpful. And, doing all those self-care things like going to the gym and yoga and meditating and praying, I think it all does help. But at the end of the day, we always have to check in with ourselves and focus on really being a cheerleader for ourselves so that we can recognize times of anxiety. We can recognize times when we're using work or using goals to avoid looking within at some big things that are going on, and I also feel, and I could be wrong because let me say this for the 100th time, Denise and I, we ain't no therapist, okay? So I could be wrong. But I also feel like I have to give myself grace with that. I lost two parents within 16 months of each other. Have I dealt with the grief? Yeah. Have I tabled it? Yes. And I feel like I have to be patient with myself and how I process that. And so I think whenever you are going through big changes, don't be, I don't know, I feel like it's important not to be, well, I should be at this stage of grief, or I should be doing this, or I should be talking about that. And I just think we need to accept and love ourselves through this journey, wherever we are on it, at whatever stage we're in.
That's incredibly important. And you're right. We're not debilitated by anxiety. And for those people who may really be suffering, these techniques may help you, but we're in no way, shape, or form saying don't get the professional help that you need to deal with it, or if you need help with medications or something that's going to help you so that you can function on a daily basis or to get through this season of your life. I think that that's really, really important to acknowledge that how debilitating anxiety, depression, and overwhelm can be for many, many people.
Yeah, it really is. And I think you and I, even though we aren't therapists, we're huge advocates of therapy.
Yes. Yes, of doing whatever you need to do to find a way to make peace with yourself, with where your life is, with what you're doing with your life. It's it, it's a short ride. It's a really short ride. And
Right.
I think
Yes.
that so many people are um, waiting for that, oh, well, when I do this or when this happens, or which goes along with the busyness, are you missing out on living your life by constantly being in that mode?
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good point. It is a short ride, and that's why I think it was Ellen Burstyn, the actress who talked about having shouldless days, how once a month she schedules in a shouldless day where there's nothing she should do.
Yes.
I think if anyone takes anything away from this time we've spent together, schedule in a shouldless day this week for yourself and just relish in doing nothing and resting and being you.
Or for those of you in the overachieving hive in this busy camp, is maybe start with 10 minutes or 15 minutes of I'm just going to sit and look out the window, or I'm going to not not fill every minute of every day with something that needs or feels like it needs to be done. Because I think baby steps are important in this if you are a very busy person.
Absolutely. Good point, Denise. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We hope you have a relaxing, restful, happy week. And please remember to show up or don't show up and do great work or don't do any work this week and share your light.
Take care.